My name is Jeroen Kloosterman and I'm a Product Strategy Manager for Oracle. As you probably know, data science and machine learning also comes with some theory that you need to know, and we'll be covering this along the way. So we'll talk about things such as supervised and unsupervised learning, linear regression, neural networks, etc. Now, before we talk about data science, we have to talk about machine learning first, because machine learning will be the actual tool that you'll use to make predictions or recommendations. And I'll come back in a second on how machine learning fits into data science. So what is machine learning? Well, I find this a very complete definition. Machine learning is the scientific study of algorithms and statistical models that computer systems use to perform a specific task without using explicit instructions, relying on patterns and inference instead. So we're trying to let the computer do a task. In other words, we're trying to automate something. And you'll notice here, without explicit instructions. So the whole point of machine learning is that you can let software reach a certain objective without explicitly programming it on how to do that. And the key to this is in the word patterns. Machine learning relies on finding patterns in data that we present to it. In other words, it will learn how to do the task from the data. Pretty similar to how you and I learn something, right? You could say that our experience is our data that we learn from. And the keyword inference, that means that once you know the patterns, you can apply it to new data. So we bring what we've learned into practice and we actually do something with it. If that sounds vague, let's go through some examples. Of course, all of you have heard about self-driving cars and Siri, so let me go through some very different examples, and all of these fit more in a business context. One of my favorite examples is in sales and marketing. Imagine that you have a product that you want to sell and you want to create a campaign for it. The challenge here is that you don't want to send out campaign material to all of your customers. No, you only want to select those customers that you actually think you will sell it to. The way it typically worked in marketing is that people would use their instinct to decide on what the best audience is. And in this traditional way, these marketeers would write some complex rules to select the audience that they think is the best one. But that was pretty hard to do because you have to rely on experience and maybe you had to do some manual analysis. So instead, if you use machine learning, those rules are basically written for you. Imagine that you have some data of customers that already bought that product and some customers that didn't buy. Then you can use that data for learning. So we feed into a training algorithm all the data that we think might be relevant to the issue. Think of customer data, think of demographic data, historic purchasing, similar customers, etc. And then the algorithm looks for the patterns that drive purchasing and stores that knowledge in what we call a model. Once we have that model, we can feed the data of any customer into it to predict whether this customer will be interested in buying the product. If we have enough quality example data, then our predictions can be better than what can be achieved through human instinct. And because we're taking advantage of the knowledge that was previously locked away, that was previously hidden in that data. Another example, did you know that in the medical world, machine learning can be used to make diagnosis of medical images? The input data for the model training process in this case are many images that have first been manually labeled by doctors. For example, having pneumonia or being healthy. And some hospitals have experimented with this and found out they actually reached higher accuracy diagnosis than with a human approach. Let's take one more example. Machine learning can also be used for fraud detection. And fraud detection can be anything from credit card fraud and attempts to hide money laundering to insurance and social benefits fraud. And again, here you could do something similar. If you know of some transactions that are definitely fraudulent, then machine learning can find the patterns in the data. But there are also other ways in which machine learning can help here. There's a class of algorithms that help you identify fraud by simply finding those transactions that look different than the rest. And we call that anomaly detection. And then there's yet another technique for this fraud detection that focuses on the network of transactions that sometimes exist in a web of bank accounts and all the activity between them.